right, good morning, church family. Let's give a hand again to the Jason Lovins Band for being here with us today. It's a great job. So proud of those guys. I can tell you a story on all of them. Like the guitar player over here, he was in the youth group with Lucas, which is pretty cool. Then the two guys, Rodney and Jose on the keyboard. Rodney and Jose, I met them at a camp. I did this first service. I won't do it now, but cool memory was we were at the camp. I just rolled in. It took me forever to get there. There was road work. I rolled in right before we got this youth camp in a room about like this, just kids everywhere. And I wanted to do an icebreaker game called Gorilla Man Gun with the kids. And so I went up to Jose, and it's the first time I'd met those guys. They're both from Venezuela. Came as music majors, the Morehead State up in Kentucky. And so I saw Jose, and a kid from my youth group had become the director of this band, of this camp. And he said, man, these guys are great. They can play anything. So I went to Jose, and I'm like, hey Jose. And then I said, hey, there's this song I want to do, and it kind of goes like this. And I sang it for him one time. Boom, 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 boom. And he said, like this, and he just played it back. And then Rodney jumped in, and the drummer jumped in, and they started rocking it out, and the kids started going over. And I just remember afterwards, I told the director, I'm like, I got to get these guys at Canova to be in our band. Like, so they did. I'm just so thankful for them. And then the drummer, he came along after. He was at part of our young adult ministry at the church and was playing at First Canova. And Jason's drummer left to go do something else, former drummer, and he came to me, and I knew what he wanted. He was going to take my drummer. So I was happy because, that's the point, man, is we don't just raise people up to keep them all to ourselves. We raise people up to send them out, and so thankful for that. And Jose, we were talking about this past year. Yesterday, his wife came to spend a little time with Dee, and we went over to our house. And the way I've told people back in West Virginia or even people around here how to remember where I live, okay, you can Google it, it would tell you, so it's not like I'm saying something online I wouldn't want people to hear. But I would say, like, if someone would come to you, and it would have come to you at the beginning of 2020, if someone would have come to me and said, hey, this is what 2020 is going to look like, you're going to leave the church you've been at for 21 years, and then you're going to go to this new church, and right after there's going to be a worldwide pandemic, and the whole world's going to go nuts, and Joe Biden's going to be the next president of the United States. You know what I mean? I would have said, they said, do you believe that's going to happen? And I would have said, no way, Jose. All right, so, and what year did that happen in? 2020. So yesterday, as they're pulling in, they said, well, you live on Jose Avenue. And I said, yeah, and I live on 2020 No Way Jose Avenue. All right, so that's literally my address, No Way Jose, 2020 Jose Way. If you're ever trying to fly by. Now everybody after church will be driving by 2020 Jose Way today. My neighbors already hate me, all the people that come by and park in my thing. We're going to be swimming in the creek in the summer, not long from now. So they thought they had peace and quiet in the Willises. All their property values went down immediately. That's all right. We'll have the Calvary people over. So just talking about 2020. Let's see if I can get this to... Now this isn't working. What did I do? There we go. In 2020, like, this has been the focus of the past year. Even, and I think, like, with some of the growth that we've seen here, I mean, look at this. I mean, this was a normal service a year ago for one service, right? This is what we've been emphasizing, is what God calls all of us to do, is every week join together for at least one worship service and give glory to God. This has just been our mantra over and over. And then because the Bible says to love God, with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, but also love your neighbors, you love yourself. What does that mean? We need to serve one another, and so we're saying at least serve the church in one capacity on a weekly basis. And then lastly, to connect with each other. That's part of the way we love one another, is we get in these connect groups. If you're not a part of one, put it on the card. We'd like to get you in one. We started 3 new ones last week with so many people coming into the church. And so just to connect with each other, to build relationships, it's not just about seeing how big we can be on Sunday morning. We want people to be worshiping God, yeah, that's cool, but also serving one another and connecting one another. And let me tell you what, there are a lot of churches in town. If you're just visiting here today, I'll just tell you, like, the pastor tried to run me off today. That's kind of what I'm doing, all right? Because here's the deal, like, if you just want to come here on Sunday mornings and go home, this isn't church for you. Plenty of places in town that would love to have you, not Calvary. Because this is what God has called us all to do, to not only come to a worship service, but to serve one another in love, to connect with our brothers and sisters in Christ. And so when we put hashtag Calvary Church Family on everything we do, that means something. We don't want to be like that distant fifth cousin that comes to church every once in a while. Like, we want this to be a church family. And as a result of just, I think, of what we've been intending to do, the Lord has done some things in our congregation in the last year that not a whole lot of people have seen. I don't know if you saw this past week. It just literally came out a couple days ago. Lifeway Research Company has surveyed churches across the nation just to see how they're holding up attendance and budget-wise, things like that. They polled me. They got an email, them and another company polled a lot of pastors. It was a nationwide survey. And I filled it out back then, a couple of them. And then like last month, I got an email and call as a follow-up on this. This is what the results. They released this week. It says, how does church attendance in January 2021 compare to January 2020? Okay, this is among U.S. Protestant pastors. Okay, here's the thing. About a third of the churches in the United States are running less than half of what they were this time last year. It's not counting online attendance. It's just people that are actually coming to worship services. Like, a lot of churches aren't even open yet. Still, haven't opened back up yet. Many will not open back up yet, okay? It's said that about 1 out of 12 churches are not going to open again. They've closed down during COVID, not going to open again. So about a third of the churches in America are running less than 50% of what they were this time last year, okay? Someone would have told you this would be true, like a third of the churches in America will be cut in half in a year. You would have said, no way, Jose, right? So, and then if you look at the churches between 50% and 70%, running less than 2/3 of the attendance on Sunday mornings. Basically, 2/3 of the churches in the United States are running less than 2/3 of their attendance this time last year. Only 30%, less than a third of the churches in the United States are 70 to 100%. Look at this. Of those who are running what they were this time last year, people participating in worship, only 2% are back to that, okay? And so they asked me what we're running today. We're going to have probably close to 500 people here in this building over the course of the day and over the course of the morning. And so I filled out the sheet, sent it back in. This is what our attendance has been. So they called me because when I was doing my PhD work, we had a thing called statistical variances that you have to look at. Like, if they depart so far from the norms, you're like, they must have filled out the form wrong, must have done something wrong. And so they sent me an email. They're like, hey, check your numbers. Like, something's wrong. You must have filled out the form wrong. And so I looked at them like, no, that's what it is. So they called me. They're like, hey, you're a preacher, right? Like, you're not lying to us. So because what we find out is, like, for churches that have almost doubled, like, we're in the 0.05% of churches across the United States that have nearly doubled over the past year. Like, but let me share this with you. We have never talked about, let's see how many people we can get here on Sunday mornings. That's not what it's been about. In fact, for the ones that are talking about that, this is probably going to happen to them. It's not about attendance. This is what it's about. I keep going back to that. This is what we're focusing on. And if God draws more and more people to this place, the people that want to worship one, but not just come to be one service wonders a week, but actually want to serve here as a part of the church family and connect with their brothers and sisters in Christ, that's what we've been focusing on. And I'll be honest, like, a lot of churches just gave up the ghost on this stuff this year. But what we're doing here, I want you to hear what I'm saying right now. What we're doing in here in this place, and what I'm about ready to talk to you about for the next 20 minutes, what we're doing here is bigger than pandemics. It's more important than personal health. I'm not saying that it's not important and we don't need to take precautions. And if you're in at-risk category, still watching at home, God bless you. Please do that, right? If you need to keep some distance while you're here, we're still spread out. That's important, but it's more important than jobs. It's more important than physical, biological family. It's more important in your school. It's more important in your church. What we're doing here Being called by God to come worship the Lord, which is the most important priority that God created us to do, to serve one another, to love one another, connect with one another, relate to one another. This is the most important calling that God has placed in our life, and nothing can have it, whether it's feast or famine or trouble or plenty or whatever. We are going to meet and worship Jesus Christ, and we're going to keep on doing it no matter what the Lord throws our way, no matter what the devil throws our way. This is important to be here, okay? What we're doing here, this is what gets us up out of bed in the morning. So many places you go, and people will say, yeah, well, my religion's a part of my life. Listen, here for this church family, it's not a part of our life, it is our life. Waking up every day and talking to God, loving our families, loving our church family, this is why we breathe. This is God's calling on our life. So when we look at this, like, I don't care about that. We care about this. Is that what people are doing? Okay? So, like, when I look back on 2020, like, this has been a hard year, has it not? I mean, I was talking with one of the band moms here, and just like for the kids, like they just wake up and like they're just kids. You know, I'm going to eat and play and use the bathroom and go and do the same thing tomorrow, right? I mean, that's what you worry about when you're a kid. But what about like these pictures we've seen from past year? This is what I want you to do. I just want you to make observations. I'm going to put some 2020 pictures, or one's not a 2020 picture, but I want to put some 2020 pictures on the board, and you can talk in church. I want you to observe each picture for 10 seconds and then tell somebody around you what you observe, okay? Try to look for more than the obvious, all right? You ready? All right, go. Here's picture number one. Look at it and share with your friends. What do you notice? Okay, next picture. What do you notice? Make some observations. First of all, how many of you recognize this place? You know where it is, out on Memorial. Okay, you know what it is. Okay, next picture. This happened in 2020. Mark Witt and I went down there to be peacemakers. I don't see us in the picture here. It was going fine until Mark and I left, and then it all blew up. So Mark should have stayed. So you're a lot quieter about this picture than you were the Walmart picture. I can just tell. Like, you guys love Walmart, I guess. All right. Next one. What do you observe here? Heard somebody say one of them has different shoes than everybody else. Okay. That's an observation. That's what we're looking for. Okay? Here's another one. This is what we didn't see in 2020. One of the older ladies, well, I shouldn't have said older ladies. I just messed up. I hope she's not still here. One of the more mature members of our congregation said to me afterwards, we may never see the stadium look like that, but what do you observe in this picture? I'm okay with that. I'm from West Virginia. I just like Hatfield McCoy still. It's still there. All right. Here's another picture. You ready for this? Oh, I like that. Oh, I didn't know this. Like Oakland had our local high school for you guys out of town. They won the 6A state championship this year, but the girls, the cheerleaders, won like the state cheer thing last year in 2019. Okay, they were state champs. I remember one time my wife was a cheerleader, and she was head cheerleader good. They were like one of the state champs or competitors, runner-up, or something like that. And I made the remark one time, like I don't think that they deserve like the TWS that way, West Virginia. Like, well, that's not a sport. And like she slapped me. All right, she's like, we are athletes. Like, so I'll never make that mistake again. A bunch of athletes. That's what I see right here. Really strong, great athletes, better than male athletes. That's for sure. Learned that early on in my relationship, okay? All right, so we're going to come back to these. I'm going to give you some scripture, and then we're going to do a little exercise here as church family. We're I want to flash back a little bit to early part of Jesus' ministry. We're going into the Passion Week, and Jesus is going to be heading to the cross really soon in the book of Mark. But in honor of our 21st anniversary and my first anniversary here, I wanted to bring us back to our foundation. I want you to see something Jesus does here. Here he is. He's 6 months into his ministry, public ministry. He's going throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction. And millions of people, tens of thousands in every city, coming out just wanting a piece of Jesus, to see Jesus. I mean, people were just mobbing him, wanting to be around him, okay? And when he saw the crowds, he had, keyword here, compassion. You know that prefix there means with passion. His emotions with passion. This word for passion means to suffer on the inside. That's like the passion of Christ, the suffering of Christ. That's what this picture is, this word is with suffering, he looked at the crowds of people. Like it made him sick to his stomach. Man, I don't know, like in the history of the universe, like what other time did God get almost overwhelmed? Like Jesus was hurting for them, because here's the thing, like there's thousands and thousands of people that need personal interaction with him, but there's only one Jesus on the planet at the time. Can you imagine that pressure if you're Jesus? Like some of you are moms of 3 kids. I remember Dee, like, and I remember I'd come home from work and she'd have the 4, 2, and the 0, you know, they're all over and her hair's going everywhere. And she says, I just can't handle all these. Like, and I'm not putting that down. I don't get slapped again. I just want to let you know that, okay? Dee's never slapped me. That's like, okay. It's figurative, all right? It was emotional slapping, all right? So anyway, so I come home. She's going like, I just remember her saying, there's not enough of me to go around. I need some help here. I think that's how Jesus felt. I mean, here he is, God in the flesh, but he's like, man, there's not enough of me to go around here. Why? The Bible tells us. Because these people were harassed and helpless. They were like sheep without a shepherd. Like there's not enough pastors for all these people. There's not enough ministers to reach the souls of all these lost and hurting people out there. Man, they need spiritual encouragement, and I can't give it all to them right now. There's only one of me, Jesus. Like he sees the crowds, and he's like there looking at them. And I can just imagine, I've felt this as a pastor. Mark's a minister. You know exactly, like when you walk on the MTSU's campus, you're like, so much lostness there. Like how can one man do this? And you know one man can't. I remember when I left my ministry at Oak Hill up in West Virginia, and we had a youth group, and FCA group, about 400, and I just felt like God was calling me to the Huntington area, and so I went down there where Marshall University is, and I go into this youth group that Jason was talking about earlier, and it's new kids, and it's a brand new school, like 1,100 kids in this brand new school that's opening up. And I just remember going in the lunchroom to start there, and I looked around, I'm like, God, how do I start all over here? I don't know any of these kids. I barely know any of their stories. And I was just like, God, like, I had a heart for these kids up in Oak Hill, and now I'm here, and how do I give my heart to somebody else? Like, Lord, I just need you to show me what you need me to do here at Spring Valley High School. And so I just prayed, and I said, God, I just need to see. I need a vision. Why have you called me to this place? And a verse came to mind, Proverbs 29:18. It says, don't let your spiritual vision be blinded by the glare of what your physical eyes see. That's the theme of this verse. Is like there's more to this world than what your physical eyes see. And so this is what God put on my heart at that time. And like I didn't have glasses then, but I just was praying there, and God says, like, put on your Jesus goggles. I didn't even know what it meant. Like, I just hear things. I know you probably think I need to see a counselor, but I just like, I feel like I just hear things from God sometimes, and I just put on my spiritual, put on my Jesus goggles. What are you talking about? And it was just, I'm just praying there in the lunchroom. People had to be going around thinking, who is this guy? And I'm just, what do you want me to see, Jesus? What do you want me to do? He says, you won't know what you need to do until you see what I see. And then it just, put on your Jesus goggles. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, see them how I see them. And it clicked what he meant. Is I need to see, and I prayed, Jesus, I need to see through your lenses. So like I was imagining when I open my eyes and look around this room, I'm going to see differently. Because when I closed my eyes, what I saw was the cheerleaders over here and the girls who wish they were a part of that group on the outside looking in. And I saw the band kids over here, and I saw the math geeks over there, and I saw the jocks over here like picking on somebody. And then I saw the smokers outside that weren't even in the lunchroom, and like all the cliques of kids or whatever. And then I said, Lord, when I open my eyes, I want to see what you see. And so I stood up on a chair in the cafeteria, Spring Valley High School. Like our youth group kids that knew me for like 2 weeks probably thought I was crazy. And I stood up on a chair, and I just imagined them put my Jesus goggles on. I said, now I need to see what you see, Jesus. And then I saw things differently. Over here, instead of seeing a crowd, I saw one little girl who kept trying to talk to these girls, but they were ignoring her. And so I saw a girl desperately trying to fit in, but she just couldn't. And I saw the boy over here, the one that was getting picked on, and everybody else was laughing. And on the outside, he's laughing, but on the inside, I know he's crying because he's a little freshman. He was the one the kids told me got drunk this past weekend. The senior guys on the football team got him drunk, and he was out puking his guts out, and they thought it was funny. And then over here, I saw this teacher that I'd already learned, like, her marriage was falling apart, and I'm sure it was all she could do to get up and just go to school that day. Do you see how if you put your Jesus goggles on, how it will change how you look at the world around you? So that said, like I want to go back through these pictures with our Jesus goggles on. Will you do that with me? Like what do you see now at the beginning of the pandemic? Like April 1st, 2020. What's this mom doing in line? You start to see it like this is a mom thinking like, I got to protect my kids. I got to buy all these wipes. How do I know she has kids? Like, we're not going to use, like, we're going to throw away every cup we have because for all I know right now, this disease is going to wipe out my family. She's got all these diapers down here. I don't know why she's buying Cheez-Its. Yeah, just, to keep them out here. Like, what's she doing? She's showing up with a mask and gloves. Like 3 weeks ago, she didn't have to wear this stuff. Like, why didn't she just quit her job? Like, I might die, get a disease, but she's got to work. This guy back here, he's got a fluorescent vest going on. I know that when that guy was 12 years old, his dream wasn't to grow up and wear a fluorescent vest in Sam's. But yet they have to be here this day. Why, man? They're like, man, I got to provide for my family, even though everybody else is hunkered down. We got to eat. What are the people that live in this place thinking about? April 1st, 2020. Because the word's out, man, if you're over 70 and you get this, you're dead. What are they thinking about today? How many of them haven't held the hand of a loved one in almost a year? How many of their families called and checked on them fairly regularly early on in the pandemic, but now it's just they've gotten out of the habit and they don't talk to a family member even once a week? That's the Jesus goggles. Are you getting it, church family? What about these people? In the election, a lot of them were considered the enemies. Angry people, burning the place down. Maybe they feel harassed. Maybe they're coming out to protest because they feel helpless. Maybe they're listening to different shepherds who are telling them that the world's out to get them or hate them. Maybe they don't feel like when they're marching around the square that anybody in town, especially the churches, love them. Didn't you feel that way that day we were down there, Mark, that you just wanted to go around and tell everybody there, you know, there's a God in heaven that loves you, and I'm sorry for the disrespect that some of you have felt in life, but I just want you to know that the followers of Jesus love you. Their outside anger is coming from inside fear. And there are shepherds that play on that. Believe me. How about these guys that had to show up and keep the peace that day? I mean, here you got 19-year-old Johnny. Do you think he signed up thinking he was going to have to wear riot gear because his own people might be throwing rocks at him? Dude just wanted to make a little bit of extra money for college. What's his mom thinking when she sees him putting on the riot gear when he heads out for a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon during the protests? Do you think he'd be throwing tear gas around college students? What does Jesus see? The guy trying to hold his family together? The guy did all he could to graduate high school? The man that's struggling with whether or not to re-enlist again? Why are all these people in this circle? What is it they're searching for? They're not all football fans. They want to feel like they are a part of something. That's been taken away from all our groups this year. And then lastly, I mean, when you see all these girls, each one of them has a story. Which one of them has pain behind those eyes? And the answer to that is probably what? All of them. But when you got your Jesus goggles on, this is what you see. So yeah, Jesus is going around everywhere and he's preaching and he's overwhelmed. He feels compassion. Like, you got all these people that need shepherded. All these people that need love, these groups that need someone to invest in them, to love in them. But the world sees them as consumers or something that they can extract some service out of them or get something from them to make them happy. But Jesus is saying, man, don't look at this with your physical eyes. Calvary Church family, look at the world around you. Look at Murfreesboro. Look at Rutherford County as Jesus would through his Jesus goggles. So he's trying to get his disciples to get this. So he says to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful. Look, guys, the fields are ripe. But the laborers are few. Right now, I only got one of me, Jesus says. But what we got to do, if we want to reach all these people, Jesus is like, I need some help here. This is bigger than just me. It's a bigger job than just for me. In fact, I came here to get people ready to go. So here's the deal, guys. Because there's so much need out there, I need you to see that. I need you to recognize it. And therefore, I need you to pray earnestly. That's why that song that Jason didn't write so good. Like, pray so much you got calluses on your knees. Like, this is what drives you out of bed in the morning. This is your mission in life. Like, man, I got to pray about this. How can God use me to reach the world around me? How can God, this is what I pray for our church. Like, when I wake up in the morning, like, every day I'm like, God, give me your Jesus goggles. I'm still this way. Like, I go to Oakland football game. It's a playoff game. And I walk up in the top of the stands and I still have the heart of a youth pastor. I'm looking down the children's, the youth section, and I'm watching the little kids playing around on the side. And I'm just like, man, how many of these people are even hearing about Jesus? Of those cheerleaders out there in the field, like, how many have even been invited? How many even know where Calvary Baptist Church is? Maybe a lot of them aren't here because nobody's ever asked them. And their parents too. So this is what he's saying, man. First thing I got to do is I got to get my followers to start praying earnestly. Not just, oh, Lord, please help us to grow. Please help us reach. Like, pray fervently. Jesus, we need more workers to go out into the field. God, please send out workers to the harvest. And as Jesus gets them praying that, watch, that's Matthew 9:38. Now, we divide it up into chapters, but those are man-made. Matthew just keeps right on writing. He says, guys, I need you to pray. I need you to pray fervently. And then he calls them together after he gave them a chance to pray. And then he gives them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal every disease and every affliction. That's what Jesus was doing in the previous verses. And so what he does is he says, I need y'all to pray about workers going out to the field. They start praying, and what does he do in verse 5? These 12, Jesus sent them out. In other words, to say it another way, I need you guys to pray about reaching Murfreesboro for Jesus. And they're okay, we're praying about it. And then he looks at them and says, okay, guys, listen. You guys are the answer to your own prayers. I'm going to send, you've been praying that God will send out workers to the field. Here's the news. You are the workers to the field. He's called you to go. And so that's what we've been doing this weekend. That's what we've been focusing on, is gathering people together. How can we invest in the more and more souls here, raise up more and more workers for the field, more and more leaders, youth, children, adults, older adults, everything in between, to send out to the world around us. And I'll tell you why we do it. It's because there are so many people with pain behind their eyes, and it was there before the pandemic ever came. I share a great story with these guys. I'll close with this thought. Is we had a guy in a band that wrote a lot of these songs that they do. Jason's cousin. And guy's probably got as much talent in his little pinky that most of us in this room have combined. He's an incredibly blessed guy. And he was having some stress in his life, and just like what happens with a lot of people in the tri-state area up there, and it's around here too, stressed out, and some friends give you some pills to deal with that stress. Pretty soon, so you could just have as much buzz you did when you first take the pills, you start crushing up those little pills into powder, and you start snorting them, that powder. Pretty soon, one pill turned into 10, 10 pills turned into 20, 20 turned into 100. And even though he's a part of a Christian band, he calls me and he says, man, I'm in trouble. I can't afford the habits I have. I can't keep up with it. My life's falling apart. I got to get out of this. So I called around with him, and we tried to find a rehab place, but they said, man, we don't do detox. He didn't have any insurance. I don't know what to do. He said, man, I got to get away from the people here that are bad influences on me and want some stuff from me. So we went out to the camp where I met these two Vince Whalen guys. And out in the middle of nowhere. And when you're talking about out in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky, like everything's out in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. And when you're out in Kentucky, in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky, you're really out there, right? So we're out there in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. And I just remember watching this young man lay there on the couch, and his body's like blue. And he's got the sweats, and he's just shaking. I just remember praying over him, like, God, you just put so much talent in this young man, and I know you want to use it for your glory. I just need you to come through here, help him get through this. Like, I was afraid he was going to die. We were there for like the next 48 hours, and then turned into 72, and I think the first 48 hours we were there, he slept 36 of them. I just watch him like he's got the worst flu in the world, going through that. And then eventually fever breaks, and he's like, man, I think I can go now. We got him into the place, and while he was there, God did some things in his life, and he wrote some songs. And let me tell you the thing that just about any songwriter will write you, the best songs are written out of a place of pain. And that's what he did. Jason, will you take the story from here?
He came back, and I knew he'd probably written a ton of songs. I just knew him, and I said, "How many did you write while you were gone?" And I believe the number was 67. And so, man, I'd love to hear some. And at this point, you know, the band had moved on. I mean, he was gone for a while, and you know, we had to keep rolling. And so he knew it it wasn't something he was going to walk back into, but he said, maybe you can take some of these and use them. And he said, this is not really one that you would ever do, but I'll play it for you. And he played it, and I said, I think this might be the most beautiful song about heaven that I've ever heard. And he said he was at a point where he was at his end, and he knew the Lord, and he believed where he was going, and he thought he might be going there sooner than later, and just kept thinking about heaven and just what that might look like. And so he played it for me, and I said I would be so honored to get to be the one to share this song with the world, and we have. And he went on, went back home to his wife and kid, and had another kid and another kid, and ended up running our biggest local Christian radio station that became so big that it covered about a 250-mile radius. I mean, it was huge, and ran the whole thing, station manager, doing the morning. I mean, he was just doing it, and years of just building that, and the Lord using him in incredible ways. And so it's been amazing to see what the Lord had done through him, even in it's just a reminder that he can take who we just don't think are likely to be the ones and use them to do crazy, amazing things. And I just love that. And I'm so thankful that the Lord does that.